Sneakers and Cleats, the podcast.
Welcome back to the Sneakers and Cleats podcast. It is Monday, November 18th. This is episode 151. That's Don Harris. That's Chuck McKinnick. Matt Roy here.
What's up?
What's going on? You guys have a good weekend?
Yes,
Don,
sir.
Don,
You had a
yours
great
was exciting.
weekend. Oh, man.
Tell us about your weekend. You went to North Carolina, so you saw Duke, Cameron Indoor.
Hold on a second. I spilled my Diet Coke.
Oh, God.
No, it didn't spill.
Okay, that's good.
My son and I are both huge Duke Blue Devil fans. My days go back to 1978 with Gene Banks and Mike Jaminski, all the way through the Johnny Dawkins and Mark Allery and Leitner and Hurley and all that. And then growing up, my son knew that I was, and so he started watching Duke, and then he fell in love with different teams like the 2010 team with Kyle Singler and all those guys and modern day. So anyway, we took a bucket list trip to go see Duke and his high school teammate Justin Robinson, who's a coach on the Blue Devils. And we got
How was it?
Oh, man. Goosebumps. I even shed a tear, man. It was like, I felt like I was going to tell Chuck, it's like Rudy's dad going into Notre Dame Stadium, a more glorious sight these eyes have never seen. When you walk into Cameron Indoor Stadium, the history, it's a small cracker box of a gym, goes back to the early 40s. It's nothing like a regular arena. We sat 4 rows behind the Duke bench. The Crazies, they were up 50-12 on Wofford College, and the Crazies were acting like it was North Carolina with the game on the line. It was unbelievable. And since we were there, my son says, Carolina's playing Friday night. So we drove over to Chapel Hill when we first got there, and we went to the famous Four Corners bar, Four Corners offense from Dean Smith, right there on campus, and did a little pre-gaming, and then we went over to the Dean Dome, which is a completely different experience. It's almost like an NBA experience, very much so. In fact, it seats 21,000 people.
I didn't know that.
Which is 3,000 more than the Spurs. So, and they were packed for a game against American University. So it was
Awesome.
hoops heaven.
Awesome. Chuck, how's your weekend?
Free of incident. Just the way I like it.
It's the company line.
Yes.
Mine was good. Broncos went.
Matt, how was your weekend?
Mine was good. Nobody asked. I was just going to
Your
tell you guys
quarterback
anyway.
is amazing.
Yeah. Bo Nix had the
Your defense is amazing.
You can stop the timer now, Bob. Bob was timing how long it took for me to get to Bo Nix. Bo Nix had arguably the best day any rookie quarterback has ever had. So best statistical day.
Wow.
No quarterback in NFL history has ever had a game of over 80% completion percentage, over 300 yards, at least 4 touchdowns, and no picks. So he's coming along. But moreover, shout out to Kenny Dillingham and Arizona State. They were picked to finish last in the Big 12 this year in the media poll. They now control their own destiny to get to the Big 12 title game. So shout out to Kenny Dillingham and Arizona State Sun Devils.
Shout out for you to not remembering that ASU was in the Big 12.
Yes. And shout out for you for not mentioning that they should have lost to Texas State.
They didn't, though. All that matters is W's, Chuck.
That's correct.
All that matters is
That's
W's.
what
The Broncos
are keeping score.
Chiefs
That's
should have
right.
lost to the Broncos, and we're not going to talk about that either. So, we got a lot going on today, though. Before we get started, I want to remind everyone subscribe and subscribe to the YouTube channel on both News 4 and Fox SA. If you're so inclined, download, rate, review the podcast. The last couple have been doing really well, so thank everybody for that. Cowboys playing tonight on Monday Night Football, playing the Texans in a game that we thought was going to mean a lot at the beginning of the year and now might ultimately mean nothing for the Cowboys, but we'll get into it. Both on the Cowboys and the Texans side, plus the Spurs, they've now dropped 2 straight. Saturdays really doesn't count. They didn't have Wemby, didn't have Sohan, didn't have Devin Vassell. So that one was really kind of...
It counts.
I mean, it counts in the standings, but as far as like speaking of the team, I don't think you can draw a lot from a game like that where you don't have a lot of your key scorers and pieces. Plus, we're going to get some insight on the potential new arena for the Spurs this week, so we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But I have trivia for you guys today. When was the last time the Cowboys went winless at home? Right now, they're 0-4 at home this season. They don't have an easy home schedule.
1960?
When is the last time the Cowboys went winless at home?
Where did they win that one game, Troy's?
It was in New Orleans, wasn't it?
I'm going to say Troy Aikman's rookie year, 1980. Huh?
Was it Washington?
Yeah, you're right.
In Washington or at home?
I think it was in Washington. Yeah.
I think
Troy
Hobby's
Aikman's rookie
right.
year.
Yeah.
Is that the guess?
Yeah, I'll go with that
Yeah.
too.
89, is it?
That is correct.
All right.
89. They went one, and I figured that would be kind of. I didn't know if it happened before or more recently than that. 'Cause they haven't really had a 1-in-15 season since then. So, yep, the one game they won was in Washington. So they
Nice
were
memory.
defeated.
Javier, nice job.
There you go,
Wearing
Javi.
glasses for a reason.
It's a bad hat he's wearing, but besides that, the USC hat over there. Anyway, so
I thought
yeah,
it was the St. Louis Cardinals.
they might
Speaking of
go
eyes.
defeated this year at home. They are just
They'll-
bad.
Don't they play the Giants at home on Thanksgiving
Tommy
Day?
DeVito, baby.
They'll win that game.
Well,
The Giants are awful.
yeah, but so are the Cowboys.
Yeah, but they're not that bad.
All
They're
right.
not that bad.
So the Cowboys playing tonight against the Texans in Jerry's World. The sun will not be an issue. It kicks off at 7:15. Texans are
Thankfully.
7.5-point favorites tonight on the road against the Cowboys, which equates to basically Vegas telling us the Texans are 10.5 points better.
Second
Cowboys
biggest
are right now.
line of the week.
Yeah. The other one was the Lions, and they ended up winning their game 52-6. So hopefully that doesn't happen tonight. But the way that the Cowboys play at home, it might. They have been horrible at home ever since they lost to the Packers last year in the playoffs. At this point, they sit with a 1% chance, or less than 1% chance, to win the division, to make the playoffs, to win the Super Bowl, any of those things that you want to say. It's a non-zero chance, but it's pretty close to zero. They have a 3-6 record. At this point, I don't even know, what do we want to see from the Cowboys tonight? Do you want to see young guys contribute, Chuck? What are you hoping to see in a lost season?
I want to see a lot of things different than what I've seen over the last month, right? It's one thing to be losing games, but to not be competitive on the scoreboard, not a fun way to spend your time in front of the television, that's for sure. I don't care if you're a Cowboy fan or not. If you're just a casual football fan, you want to see somebody not play well for a half or be competitive for a half. So where are they going to get that from? I don't know, because as we've discussed here before, where is the hope? You've got a great kicker, and then though you've got good players, almost all of them are hurt or not playing.
You got the great red-haired hope, Cooper Rush.
And I like Cooper Rush as a backup too, but he's obviously proven that he can win ball games, right? He was 5-1 up until last week. Both of those losses now against the Eagles, so maybe he'll have better hope starting a ball game that's not against.
And they competed
from
for
Philadelphia.
They competed for a half.
Yeah.
And if they win tonight, they're 4-6. Outside chance to go on a run. I don't think anybody at this point thinks that that's actually feasible, though.
Well, I think the most encouraging thing you can do as a Cowboy fan is call up the NFL standings and look at all the mediocrity of 5-5 everywhere. Everywhere. There's 6-4, 4-6, 5-5. Everywhere.
6-5.
And or whatever it is. But it's you can get there. If you put together a 3-game winning streak, you're right there. But the problem is they can't do that because they don't have the team, they don't have the players. They were bad enough with Dak.
Well, the problem is that right now the Cowboys are 4 games out of a wild card spot.
Yeah.
Washington is the 7 seed right now. They're 7-4. The Cowboys, if they win tonight, will be 4-6. So they'll be 3 games out of a wild card spot, and with 7 to play.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. So at this point, I think you're just hoping for performances from your young guys. Who is going to be able to contribute on this team long term? The Mozzies, the DeMarvions, the Tolberts of the world, the Coopers of the world.
Let me ask you this: do they know? Because we keep saying play Trey Lance. Let's see what you have. Do they know what they have in Trey Lance, and he's just not a good player?
I think that we'll see him starting. I think we'll see him starting in a couple of weeks. Once they're hopelessly out of it, I think it'll be the Trey Lance show. What do you think, Chad?
Yeah, that's my thought, right? If Trey Lance, they see something or he's managing whatever it is in practice that they're comfortable with, I think they would throw him to the Wolves. But they're not going to put him in unless they trust him to some degree. And what you guys have already aptly pointed out, right? There's still a sliver of hope.
Like that much.
Yeah, a modicum of hope.
I was just about to say that. That was the word I was going to throw out there.
Saying there's a chance.
I don't understand why, why do you even like? All you're doing is hurting your draft choices, right? I mean, why try to win a game at this point?
Well,
why not put in test all the unproven players you have, give them some time, protect your veterans. Just start thinking about next year, and
because no matter what, football players are still battling for their paycheck. Like, the players are never going to be told go lose this game and actually go lose it. You're going to have to tank from the top down, and that's. I mean, you could argue they've been doing that all year. But
we're all in. We're all in. All in.
Like when you saw with the Texans a couple years ago with Lovie Smith, like if they lost that game, they would have had the number 1 pick, and instead they went out, they fought for Lovie Smith, they won the game, and they got the number 2 pick. Ended up being the best thing that could have happened.
Guys are playing for jobs next year, whether it's on the Cowboys roster or if those players end up going somewhere else. I mean, the tape is the tape, and these guys keep stats on every snap that's taken during practice. They measure what a guy's ability is, obviously every play, but also a guy's effort with these GPS tracking systems.
Yeah.
I mean, now coaches can manipulate obviously who's going to be in there, which could affect the outcome of a game, obviously based on, level of talent or ability, whatever the case may be. So
I don't think you can start openly tanking this with 8 games.
I'm
left.
with you. And I mean, again, I would never advocate for that. I mean, clearly the Texans didn't do that when they won that ball game and messed up, quote unquote, the number 1 pick. And look what ended up happening. They ended up getting C.J. Stroud because of it.
Karma.
So, he hasn't looked that great this year anyway, but
he's still pretty damn good.
He's still pretty good.
I'd like to be Mike McCarthy at the Jake Paul Tyson fight the other night, watching the big screen with 75,000 other people, where Michael Irvin is joking with Jerry Jones about hiring Deion Sanders to be the head coach.
Yeah.
And people are cheering, and McCarthy's there watching it with everybody else. That's just got to be humiliating.
Dude, he shouldn't want to be the head coach of the Cowboys anymore. Like, get me the hell out of here if I'm Mike McCarthy. Can you guys imagine think of a more disastrous season though? Like, just from the beginning, like in training camp, you could just tell that this. The season's just kind of.
Can I imagine it?
Yeah, he's living it. Yeah,
I'm living it.
Yeah. Well, you're a Browns fan. You can imagine a lot worse.
Yeah.
But just look at the things that have happened to the Cowboys that are just so weird and making this season seem like a movie instead of some normal football season. Like, there was a fire at a preseason hotel or out in
false alarm.
Yeah, false alarm. But it was a fire that destroyed a lot of possessions for this one player.
What?
A player had jury duty.
Remind me of the fire. I'm lost.
There was a fire at the team hotel.
Okay.
There was a player who had jury duty that never happens. Brandon Aubrey goes to jury duty, and that never happens to players, especially in season.
Didn't affect anything.
Brandon Cooks has been out since late December because of a knee injection that ended up getting an infection, and he's barely coming back to practice. Jerry Jones is threatening radio hosts. Trayvon Diggs is yelling at reporters about a tweet that they had right after the game happens. Zeke was ruled a healthy scratch because of tardiness and as a punishment for a game. Dak Prescott is now out for the season just 2 months after he became the highest paid player in NFL history. And the week he got hurt, the week when all the media was asking him, why don't you run as much? And then he goes out and gets his hamstring hurt. And then CD is now complaining again about curtains at Jerry World. And Jerry is getting all fired up, saying, well, why don't we just build a new stadium? Let's just tear a stadium down. Like, all of those things wrapped into one. We're only 9 games into the season. Like, can you think of a weirder season?
Matt wasn't born, in the early 90s when this was every season, and they still won Super Bowls. Emmett was falling off of tractors and
getting run over by golf carts.
And Michael Irvin was in hotels with hookers with cocaine, and they had the big house, and there were private investigations with secret cameras, and
there was North Dallas before that.
Yeah,
right?
but Twitter wasn't around then.
True.
So
yeah, but there were books written about the early escapades of the '70s Cowboys, and so
North Dallas 40.
It has been. It does seem like a series of unfortunate events. Right?
In recent memory, though, this is by far the strangest season that I've seen.
Well, everything has been lined up against them, right? I mean, you have a team that won 13 ball games last year. Looked like they were set up pretty well last year, then had the debacle in the playoffs. But you're thinking, okay, that's a one-off. You know, they can get back to where they are, be halfway decent, and make another run at this thing. And it's been quite the contrary since opening day.